Alright, so I got a little story for you all. The year is 2020, and basically, everything is on fire, everyone is stuck inside, and yet, I was happily browsing around for something to watch, as there really wasn't much else to do. And while I don't usually try out new shows, there was one that recently caught my eye. And of course, that show was none other than Bluey. But as a newcomer, it didn't seem like anything special to me, as from my perspective, I initially passed it off as just another bland, generic kids show, a mistake that many still make to this day. But after coming across a couple clips of it online, I began to get curious, as something about it just clicked with me. And while I was still skeptical, it dragged me in like a magnet, and before I even knew it, here I was in front of my TV, getting ready to see a couple episodes. And then, it happened. In front of my screen was a dog like no other. A dog of commitment, strength, wisdom, and sheer greatness. A dog with no parallels in this world. A great being that was unlike any godly figure that preceded him. And his name was Bandit Healer. And on that fateful day, witnessing his actions right in front of my eyes, I thought to myself, dang, this dude is super ugly. What a pitiful excuse of a character. I hope I never see him again. But little did I know, my opinion would quickly change. Oh yeah, let's talk about my favorite character, Bandit Healer. So yeah, believe it or not, Bandit wasn't always my favorite character. In fact, when I first got into the show, I didn't care for him once I realized that him and Bluey weren't the same thing. But as most of you know, my opinion on him quickly changed, and I can safely say that he is, to me at least, the best character out of the entire show. I mean, this dude literally won an actual award, and he doesn't even exist! What a legend! So today, we'll be covering the man, or dog, himself, including his history, evolution, and why his character is so beloved. But without a further ado, let's begin. In my opinion, Bandit Healer probably has the most interesting history of any character in Bluey, including Bluey herself. And to start, there have been a couple of different designs for him over the years, but I'd like to imagine that Bandit's history goes back years before the show even began. In June of 2019, the official Facebook account for Bluey made a very interesting post, with the words, "Here's the original Bandit," followed by an image featuring a dog that looks a bit familiar. And even though it's a bit of a stretch, I'd like to believe that this dog was in fact the basis, or at least an inspiration behind Bandit's final design, which would be pretty cool. But outside of that, that's basically all there is to the image, as there's not much known about this dog, outside of him being a possible inspiration behind Bandit Healer, and even that's debatable. But anyways, going into his actual development, there have probably been a lot of early concepts or designs for Bandit, but the earliest one I could find dates back to 2016, where he made an appearance in a short test pilot for the show. And while no footage of the pilot has been released, a photo from the screening was found, featuring an early version of the Healer family. And of course, we also see Bandit, where he looks kind of normal, sharing the same body as his final version, but also having some major differences. Most notably, he lacks the yellow fur on his belly, and interestingly, the black fur on his head only covers one eye. And while I haven't seen the pilot myself, there have been articles written about it, which give us an interesting look into what it was actually about. Supposedly, the pilot was about Bandit pushing Bluey on a swing, but getting distracted by his phone, causing Bluey to swing out of control and do a full 360. And while that honestly sounds hilarious, the pilot did gain some attention, but still needed much work, with Joe Brum, the creator and writer of Bluey, stating that, quote, "It just had some dangerous stuff in it. You could never put that on TV." However, despite the issues, a year after the pilot was screened, production on the show would eventually begin with Ludo Studio, an animation studio based in Brisbane, a city in Australia, and with support from the ABC, BBC, and Screen Australia. And with the announcement of the show's production, a revamped version of the Healer family was seen, alongside a new look for Bandit, where he looks remarkably similar to his present-day appearance, now having yellow fur on his belly, and of course the black fur covering both of his eyes. And around this time, another pilot was created, which was a few minutes long and would eventually become the basis for the season 1 episode, The Weekend. And while most of it has been kept hidden as well, parts of this one have been circulated online, thanks to a sneak peek by the ABC on Twitter in 2017, alongside a couple of promotional images that were also released around the time. And in the pilot, the characters basically do the exact same thing they did in the final episode, although with some rougher animation and different designs from the final version. But unlike the promotional image from a couple months earlier, Bandit still shared the same appearance he had in the first pilot. And to me, it's really strange that they would go out of their way to make a new design, and then just go back to the old version. But I suppose that they were either on the fence about his final look, or that the pilot could have been made before the image, but just released after. And with this new pilot, we got to see some more of his internal character, where he acted as the fun-loving, but caring dad that he would eventually become. And interestingly, we can also hear his voice, where he is played by Dave McCormack, the frontman for the Australian band Custard, who basically just uses his normal voice.
What's today, kiddo?
It's the weekend?
That's right.
So whenever you hear him singing or being interviewed, he literally sounds just like Bandit, and it's just the most amazing thing ever. And with plans in place, things were pretty smooth sailing, with production on the show now at full speed, and a planned release in 2019. And with seemingly high hopes, some merchandise was designed leading up to the show's release, where another version of Bandit can be spotted, as on the prototypes of some early Bluey merchandise, such as the 5-in-1 card game, another design for Bandit can be seen, gaining the yellow belly his later design has, but still missing the black fur covering both of his eyes. But to my knowledge, this design was only present on the prototypes, and were eventually edited to match Bandit's current design when they were actually released. And speaking of his final design, the last major change he would see regarding development would be in 2018, where he finally made his public debut in the Season 1 episode Magic Xylophone, which was also the very first episode of the show to air. In the episode, Bandit and the kids play a game of Magic Xylophone, where his kids pretend to freeze him, proceeding to mess around by making him wear a ridiculous outfit and drawing on his face. But despite the fun they're having, trouble begins when Bluey refuses to let her sister Bingo have a turn, resulting in an argument between the two. So being the goofy yet wise father he is, Bandit decides to step in and freeze Bluey, plotting to get back at her unless the two work together again. But of course, Bluey eventually learns to take turns with her sister, leading to the two successfully tricking their dad and resolving their conflict. And from then on, Bandit stayed relatively the same, often getting involved, either willingly or unwillingly, into the shenanigans of his kids, where he often got the short end of the stick, but also sometimes taught the kids important things about life, and occasionally even learned a few things himself. However, that's not to say that he didn't experience any notable changes over the course of the show, as there were a few small adjustments. Starting in the first season, Bandit would act relatively the same, often stealing the spotlight with his charming attitude, lovable personality, and his insane dedication to Bluey and Bingo's games, where he often created characters and alter egos to spice the episodes up, turning what was often a relatively mundane activity into an immersive, hilarious experience that both kids and adults collectively enjoyed. And in episodes such as Bob Bilby and Neighbors, it's even implied that Bandit was some sort of musician, likely a callback to Dave McCormack's career. I mean, have you seen him on those drums in Neighbors? He is freaking good! But outside of games, Bandit would also partake in the occasional gross-out gag or even making a dad joke, such as the dreaded, infamous hungry joke. You know the one.
I'm hungry.
Oh, hello, Hungry. This is Bored. Oh, tough crowd.
However, as the second series aired in 2019, some slight changes did take place, such as the inclusion of less dad jokes and potty humor, putting a larger emphasis on Bandit's situations and character, which I think was a nice improvement. As in episodes such as Squash or Tickle Crabs, we got to see other sides of his character, such as his competitive yet friendly relationship with his brother, or having him overcome his reliance on chili, which I think is some minor but interesting character development. And throughout the season, we also got a few minor, albeit fun changes in look as well, such as him being forced to wear a ridiculous amount of makeup in Stumpfest, or even seeing a younger version of him in Baby Race. And in the episode The Show, we even get some interesting lore, where Bluey and Bingo perform a play about Bandit and Chili meeting each other. And while most of the play is likely made up and not the actual story, it does contain some interesting moments, such as the two apparently meeting at some sort of party in London, and the two having a trip to Italy, or according to Bluey, the dump. Also, in December of 2020, a play based off the show premiered, titled Bluey's Big Play, where Bandit was portrayed by a giant puppet controlled by people on stage, alongside a few other Bluey characters. However, unlike Bluey or Bingo, he did not get a walk-around mascot, which admittedly would have been pretty cool, but I guess we'll have to wait on that. And because of how likable he was and how relatable his situations were, Bandit not only became a beloved character, but an absolute icon amongst parents and children alike, selling toys, winning awards, and even becoming oh dear. But despite the positive impact he had, not everyone was happy, as some parents thought he was too good. And while it sounds silly since he is a fictional character, many felt that his incredible dedication made him too difficult to relate with, and that after watching some of the episodes, their kids got the impression that they could do whatever they wanted, and that their parents would just play along with it. So starting in the third series, Bandit's character would receive some changes, and this time, it wouldn't go unnoticed. In response to the previous criticism, Bandit still retained most of the traits that made him so lovable, but compared to previous seasons, his attitude was just different. As opposed to the more energetic, almost always positive attitude he was known for, Bandit acted notably more realistic, being shown as tired more often and sometimes acting less mature than before. And as you can imagine, many had a positive reception to the change, as he became much more relatable, but some also felt that it was just too different, and that his flaws ruined the charm he once had. And compared to previous seasons, he wasn't in the spotlight as often, sharing more screen time with his wife Chili and the other characters. But while the change was a little jarring for some, including me at first, I think the first few episodes just left a bad first impression, as in the following episodes, we did get to see more of the fun antics he's known for, while still keeping a fine balance. And as season 3 has continued, he has continued to get a lot of interesting roles. So as of now, I don't have any worries about a potential fall from grace or flanderization, as the character does seem to be in good hands still. And despite the changes, he still had a few significant roles in the third series, and included many iconic moments such as being a French chef, a crazy hand puppet named Unicorse, and in the episode Sheepdog, he's a sheepdog with a mullet. No, I am not making that up. And most interesting of all, we get to see an even younger version of him in the episode Fairy Tale. And unlike his previous versions, his appearance here uses an entirely different model to fit his younger look. Although I can't help but notice that he looks just like a recolor of older Bluey's model with a sick haircut. I mean, you can even see that they forgot to switch the colors on the tail, which is not a huge mistake, but I just thought it was interesting to point out. And not to mention that this whole episode was just a huge blast in itself, and a very interesting look into Bandit's character. And I won't mention everything, but seeing the dynamic between not only Bandit and his younger brother Stripe, but also his older brother Rad was pretty interesting. And according to Bandit, he was quite mean in his younger years, much to the dismay of his two brothers. And being the middle child, he seemed to get a little left out compared to the others, which can be seen in his interaction with his dad.
What do you want, Stripe? Brad, Gerald, whatever your name is. What are you on about?
But on a family vacation, he gets jinxed by Rad, causing him to get into trouble and learn his lesson. And at the end of the episode, he accidentally runs into, major spoiler alert, Chili, where the two have a quick interaction before going their separate ways, at least for now. However, Chili herself is skeptical of the story, insisting that she has no memory of this occurring, but that it could have happened. So did the two meet at some crazy party in London, or on some childhood vacation by pure luck? It's hard to say, as neither are confirmed, but I'd like to believe the latter, since that would make such a great story. But as Chili says, there's some dispute about it, so for now, we can only think. And as of writing this, that's basically everything you need to know about Bandit Healer, from his humble roots in an obscure pilot to an iconic character that thousands, or even possibly millions of all ages can enjoy. It was honestly astounding how many changes Bandit witnessed throughout his existence, despite only being half a decade old. And from an in-universe perspective, I also found it really fascinating how he went from this mean, sometimes ignored brat to the kind, dedicated father he is now, as we don't get flashbacks or lore too often, but it's definitely something that I would love to see more often. I mean, I can't be the only one who wants a spin-off of Bandit and Chili in their younger years, or just a spin-off of the two in general. I think that would be awesome. And regarding why he's so beloved, there's a lot of reasons, but overall, he's just so likable. And while he doesn't always make the right choices, Bandit shows that he can be wise and insightful, while also being humorous and young at heart. And on top of that, his role is particularly special as the creator and writer of Bluey, Joe Brum, is a father of 2 daughters himself, and has based most of the episodes off of his own experiences, which I think really helps in making Bandit an understandable and relatable character, as Brum is essentially writing about his own experiences through him. But with all that said, what do you think about Bandit Healer? In my opinion, I think he's an overall great character with countless funny moments, but his history and relationship to his creator honestly makes him an even more interesting character to me than before, which says a lot because he was already my top favorite. However, I also admit that he isn't perfect, and can sometimes act a bit too immature, such as in episodes like Obstacle Course. But even then, he usually gets karma for his actions, so it doesn't bother me that much. But anyways, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until then, B&B Productions will be signing out. Have a great day everyone, and I'll see you real soon. Bye everyone!